The windshield wipers were fighting a losing battle against the freezing October rain. I was gripping the steering wheel of my truck, knuckles white, trying to navigate the slick streets of downtown Seattle. The gray sky pressed down on the city, matching the heavy feeling in my chest that had been there for months. I told myself I was just driving to the hardware store, just a normal Tuesday errands run. But fate has a way of putting you exactly where you need to be, even when you don't want to be there. I stopped at a red light on 4th Avenue, the heater blasting against the damp chill seeping through the windows. That's when I saw the figure on the corner. A woman, wrapped in a soaked, oversized coat that looked like it had been pulled from a dumpster. She was holding a cardboard sign that was dissolving in the rain, and clinging to her chest was a bundle wrapped in plastic trash bags. Most people looked away. That's what we do in the city. We pretend not to see the suffering. But something about the way she stood, the tilt of her head, sent a jolt of electricity down my spine. She turned slightly to shield the bundle from a passing bus's spray, and I saw her profile, my breath caught in my throat. It couldn't be. My daughter, Eliana, was supposed to be in a luxury condo in Bellevue, living the perfect life with her successful husband. But as I stared, the woman looked up, her eyes hollow and dark. It was Eliana, and she looked like she was dying. Before we continue this story, I need to know who is riding shotgun with me on this journey. Let me know in the comments where you are watching from right now. And if you want to see how a father fights back when the world tries to break his child, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. I want to know who is standing with us. I didn't bother checking traffic. I threw the truck into park right there in the turn lane and jumped out into the deluge. Horns blared behind me, angry and impatient. But the sounds seemed miles away. All I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears. I ran toward her, splashing through icy puddles. "Eliana!" I screamed her name, my voice cracking. She flinched violently, stepping back toward the brick wall of the bank building as if I were about to strike her. She looked at me with zero recognition at first, just pure, animalistic fear. Then, clarity broke through the exhaustion on her face. "Dad?" she whispered. Her lips were blue. "Dad, no. You have to leave. They're watching." "Who is watching?" I reached for her, but she recoiled. "Please go. If they see you, they'll hurt us. They said they'd hurt you." She was scanning the street, her eyes darting frantically to the parked cars across the intersection. "I am not leaving you on this corner," I growled, grabbing her arm gently but firmly. The bundle against her chest shifted, and a tiny cry erupted from beneath the plastic. My granddaughter, Daisy. "Get in the truck, now." She hesitated, trembling so hard her teeth chattered audibly. "They'll take her away, Dad." "You don't understand." "Let them try," I said, pulling her toward the passenger side. I practically lifted her into the seat. She was light, dangerously light, like a bird made of hollow bones. I slammed the door, shutting out the rain and the city, and scrambled back into the driver's seat. I locked the doors immediately. The silence inside the cab was heavy, broken only by the rhythmic thrum of the engine and the heater fan. Eliana was curled into a ball against the door, clutching Daisy so tight her knuckles were white. The smell hit me then. The scent of wet wool, unwashed skin, and the metallic tang of the street. It broke my heart. I pulled away from the curb, ignoring the angry gestures from other drivers. I drove aimlessly for the first few minutes, just needing to put distance between us and that corner. My mind was racing, trying to piece together a puzzle that made no sense. 6 months ago, I had visited them, I had seen the marble countertops, the expensive cars, the nursery filled with designer toys. "Where is Preston?" I asked, my voice low. I was afraid if I spoke too loud, she would shatter. "Where is your husband, Eliana?" She flinched at his name. She squeezed her eyes shut, tears leaking out to mix with the rainwater on her dirty cheeks. "He's at the house," she whispered. "Does he know you're out here? Does he know his wife and child are begging in the rain?" She let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "He knows, Dad. He dropped us off." The truck swerved slightly as my hands seized on the wheel. I corrected the course, staring straight ahead, feeling a cold, dark rage beginning to form in the pit of my stomach. "He what?" "He dropped us off," she repeated, her voice dead. "Shift starts at 8 a.m. If I don't make $50 by sunset, we don't get let back inside." I didn't ask another question. I couldn't. If she told me one more thing right then, I would have turned the truck around and done something that would have put me in prison for the rest of my life. And I couldn't help her from a jail cell. I needed to get them safe. I didn't go to my house. That would be the first place anyone looked. Instead, I drove north, heading toward a small fishing cabin I owned near the Snohomish River. It wasn't much, just a dry roof and a wood stove. But it was off the grid, and nobody knew about it except me. When we arrived, the rain had turned into a soft drizzle. I hustled them inside and got a fire going in the cast iron stove. I found some old blankets and heated up a can of soup on the burner. Eliana sat on the rug by the fire, unwrapping Daisy. My granddaughter was 7 months old. She looked pale, her skin slightly rashy, but she was alive. She guzzled the warm water I offered in a clean cup. Eliana ate the soup with shaking hands, shoveling it in like she hadn't seen food in days. I watched them from the kitchen table, the darkness outside the window pressing against the glass. I was 70 years old. I had a bad hip and high blood pressure. But as I watched my daughter tremble, I felt 20 years younger and ready for war. Once the food settled in her stomach and Daisy had fallen asleep on the makeshift bed of cushions, Eliana finally looked at me. The firelight danced across her face, highlighting the hollows under her cheekbones. "I'm sorry, Dad," she whispered. "I'm so sorry I didn't call." "Stop," I said gently. "Just tell me how. How did it go from the country club to the street corner?" She took a deep breath. "It started right after Daisy was born. Preston changed. Or maybe he just stopped pretending. His mother, Lydia, moved in to help with the baby. Suddenly nothing I did was right. I was too emotional, too tired, too unstable." She picked at a loose thread on the blanket. "They stopped letting me sleep. Preston would wake me up every hour, claiming Daisy was crying when she wasn't. They wore me down, Dad, psychologically. They made me feel like I was losing my mind. It's easy to judge when you're on the outside looking in. We like to think we're smart, that we'd never let someone manipulate us like that. But abuse isn't always a bruise on the face. Sometimes it's a whisper in the dark that steals your sanity. If you are watching this, and you know someone is hurting, or if you've been through the darkness yourself, you know how hard it is to ask for help. Don't just scroll past. Hitting that subscribe button tells YouTube to show this story to more people, people who might need to hear that they aren't alone. It's a small click for you, but it could be a lifeline for someone else. Then came the paperwork, Eliana continued, her voice gaining a little strength. About 3 weeks postpartum, I was on heavy medication for the infection I got after the C-section. Preston came in with a stack of documents. He said it was for a trust fund for Daisy. He said he needed to secure her future in case anything happened to him. I closed my eyes, knowing what was coming. "You signed it." "I signed everything," she wept. "I trusted him. He's my husband. He told me he loved me while he handed me the pen. But it wasn't a trust fund. It was a transfer of assets. I signed over my rights to the inheritance Mom left me. I signed over the deed to the condo, which was in my name. I even signed a sweeping power of attorney." "The money?" I asked, feeling sick. "The $650,000? Gone," she said. "Moved into an offshore account under Lydia's name within 48 hours. They stripped me clean, Dad. And once they had the money, they didn't need the wife anymore." The fire popped, sending a spark against the screen. "So they kicked you out?" I asked. "Not immediately," she said. "That would look bad. Preston cares about his image. He's running for city council next year, remember? He couldn't just divorce a new mother. He needed me to leave. He needed me to look like the problem. So they locked me out during the day," she explained. "At first it was just for an hour, then all afternoon. Then they started driving me to different parts of the city. Preston's brother, Caleb, would drop me off in the worst neighborhoods. They took my phone, my wallet, my keys. They gave me that cardboard sign." "Why?" I slammed my hand on the table. "Why make you beg if they already stole the money?" "To build a case," she said, her eyes wide with the horror of it. "They took photos of me. They filmed me looking disheveled and begging. They were building a portfolio of evidence to prove I was mentally unstable and unfit to be a mother. They wanted full custody of Daisy, Dad. They wanted to take her and erase me completely. The cruelty was so calculated it left me breathless. It wasn't just greed, it was sadism. They wanted to destroy her credibility so thoroughly that no one would believe her when she screamed for help." "I tried to run once," Eliana said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I tried to go into a police station. But Caleb was parked across the street. He texted me a photo of your house, Dad. A photo of you gardening in the front yard, taken through a rifle scope. My blood ran cold. He said if I talked to anyone, cops, you, a lawyer, that the stress would be too much for your heart. He said you'd have a medical accident within the hour. I couldn't risk you, Dad. So I got back in the car." She looked at me, begging for forgiveness. "I stayed on that corner because I was trying to keep you alive." I stood up and walked to the window, staring out at the black trees. I had spent my life trying to protect her, and in the end, she had endured hell to protect me. The guilt was a heavy stone in my gut. "You're safe now," I said, turning back to her. "But we can't stay here forever. Preston isn't going to just let his unstable wife disappear with the leverage he needs for court." "He'll find us," she said, panic rising again. "Preston has connections. He knows people in the police department. He knows private investigators." "Let him come," I said, though I felt less confident than I sounded. "I'm not the same man I was 10 years ago, Eliana. I don't have much to lose anymore except you and that baby. And a man with nothing to lose is dangerous." I checked the locks on the cabin door again. I had an old shotgun above the mantel, dusty and unused for years. I took it down and checked the chamber. Empty. I went to the drawer where I kept the shells. We stayed at the cabin for 2 days. I let Eliana sleep for 18 hours straight while I watched Daisy. It was the first time I had really held my granddaughter. She had Eliana's nose and my late wife's chin. She was perfect. On the third morning, the rain had stopped. The silence of the woods was peaceful until the sound of gravel crunching under tires broke it. I moved Eliana and Daisy into the back bedroom and told them to be silent. I grabbed the shotgun, keeping it out of sight but within reach, and opened the front door. A black SUV was idling in the driveway. The window rolled down, and Caleb, Preston's younger brother, smiled out at me. He was wearing sunglasses, even though it was overcast. "Good morning, William," he called out, his voice slick like oil. "Lovely spot you have here. Little damp for a family reunion, though." "Get off my property," I said calmly. Now. No need for hostility. We're just worried about Eliana. She's having a breakdown, you know. Postpartum psychosis. Very tragic. We just want to bring her home to the doctors." "She's not here," I lied. Caleb laughed, opening the car door and stepping out. He was a big man, younger and stronger than me. "Don't insult my intelligence, old man. We tracked your truck's GPS. Now send her out and nobody gets hurt. You don't want to have a heart attack out here in the middle of nowhere." He took a step toward the porch. I raised the shotgun. I didn't aim it at him, just held it across my chest. I said, "Get off my property." Caleb stopped. He looked at the gun, then at me. He sneered. "You think you can protect her? Preston has already filed the missing persons report. The police are looking for a kidnapping suspect." "That's you, William." He got back in the car. "We'll be back with the badge-wearing friends. Enjoy the quiet while it lasts." He reversed down the drive and sped away. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the gun. We couldn't stay. The clock was ticking. We left 10 minutes later, taking back roads to avoid the highways. I knew we couldn't run forever. If they had the police involved, we would be stopped eventually. We needed to stop playing defense and start playing offense. I drove us to the city, but not to hide. I drove straight to the office of an old friend. Adrian Vance wasn't a fancy corporate lawyer. He was a shark who specialized in fraud and difficult divorces. He owed me a favor from 20 years ago when I pulled him out of a burning car wreck. We walked into his office, looking like refugees. Adrian took one look at Eliana and buzzed his secretary. "Cancel my afternoon and get me coffee, a lot of it." We sat in his leather chairs and told him everything. When Eliana finished explaining the forced begging and the financial theft, Adrian didn't look shocked. He looked angry. "It's a classic setup," Adrian said, pacing the room. "Gaslight the mother, steal the assets, frame her for incompetence, get full custody. It's evil, but it's effective. The problem is proof. Right now, it's her word against a pillar of the community." "We need a smoking gun," Adrian said. "The begging? He'll claim she wandered off and refused to come home. The money? He'll produce those signed documents." "We need to follow the money," I said. Adrian nodded and picked up his phone. "I'm calling Tanya." Tanya was a forensic accountant and investigator who looked like a librarian but worked like a pit bull. She arrived within the hour with a laptop and a secure server connection. "If the money moved, I'll find the tracks," Tanya said. She started typing, her fingers a blur. "Give me the account numbers, social security, everything." While Tanya worked, I paced. Eliana held Daisy, rocking her back and forth. The room was tense, filled with the click-clack of the keyboard and the heavy breathing of desperate people. "Found it," Tanya said 20 minutes later. "He was sloppy. He thought you were too broken to check." "What is it?" I asked. "The trust fund transfer," Tanya pointed at the screen. "He backdated the signature, but the digital timestamp on the bank's server shows it was uploaded at 3:00 a.m. on the 14th. That was while you were still in the hospital, Eliana. And the notary stamp? It belongs to a woman who died 3 years ago. Forgery, Adrian said, a grin spreading across his face. That voids the documents. There's more, Tanya said, her face grim. I pulled his text logs. He didn't scrub his cloud backup. Look at this thread with Caleb. She turned the screen. It was a text from Preston to his brother. Make sure she stays on the corner until at least 6 p.m. We need the lighting to be bad for the video, so she looks worse. If she tries to leave, remind her about her dad's heart condition. That's coercion, Adrian said. Kidnapping, extortion. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from Facebook. A video was trending in my local area. I clicked it. It was shaky footage of Eliana shivering on the corner, looking disheveled. The caption read, "My poor wife has lost her battle with mental health. She has taken our daughter and run away. Please, if you see her, call the police. We just want them home safe." The comments were brutal. What a horrible mother. She looks like a junkie, praying for that poor husband. Eliana saw the screen and sobbed, burying her face in Daisy's blanket. Everyone hates me. I can't go outside. They all think I'm a monster. I felt the rage boiling over. I wanted to reply. I wanted to type in all caps that Preston was a devil. Don't, Adrian commanded, seeing my thumb hovering over the screen. Do not engage. Let him think he's winning. Let him think we are cowering in fear. If we respond now, he destroys the evidence. We need him to feel safe. He's destroying her reputation, I shouted. And we are going to destroy his life, Adrian said calmly. But we do it on our terms. We invite him to a meeting. We tell him Eliana is ready to surrender. The plan was dangerous. It required Eliana to be in the same room as her abuser. But she looked at me, wiped her eyes, and nodded. I'll do it. For Daisy. Adrian set up the meeting at a neutral location, a conference room in a hotel downtown. We told Preston's lawyer that Eliana was exhausted, out of money, and ready to sign the custody papers if he promised not to press charges for kidnapping. Tanya spent the night preparing the dossier. We had the forged notary logs, the bank transfers showing the money going to the mother-in-law, and the text messages proving the conspiracy to endanger a minor. We also found something else. A life insurance policy taken out on Eliana 2 weeks ago. Double indemnity for accidental death. They weren't just going to take the baby, Tanya whispered to me in the hallway. They were hoping she'd die on the street. Hypothermia. An accident. They were betting on it. The morning of the meeting, the sky was clear but cold. I wore my best suit, though it was a little tight around the shoulders. Eliana wore a simple gray dress. She looked tired, but she didn't look like a victim anymore. She looked like a survivor. We arrived at the hotel early. Adrian set up a camera in the corner, disguised as a speaker. Tanya sat in the next room, monitoring the audio. Remember, Adrian said, let him talk. Let him dig the hole. At 10 a.m. sharp, the door opened. Preston walked in, flanked by Lydia and Caleb. They looked like royalty. Preston was wearing a $2,000 suit and a look of mock concern. Eliana, he said, opening his arms. Oh, honey. Thank God you're safe. Eliana didn't move. She stayed seated next to me. Sit down, Preston. Preston's smile faltered for a second, then returned. He sat. Lydia glared at me with pure venom. We have the papers ready. Preston said, sliding a folder across the table. Full custody to me. You get visitation on weekends, supervised. And we'll get you into a nice treatment facility for your episodes. And the money? I asked. The condo? Lydia scoffed. Reimbursement for the emotional distress she's caused this family. It's all in the agreement. So you admit you took it? Adrian asked quietly. It was a family asset transfer, Preston said dismissively. She signed for it. Just like she's going to sign this. I'm not signing anything, Eliana said. Her voice was steady. Preston sighed, his face hardening. Don't make this difficult, Eliana. You're homeless. You're unstable. You have nothing. If you don't sign, I'll have your father arrested for kidnapping and you'll never see Daisy again. Actually, Adrian said, opening his own folder. We have a different offer. He slid a photo across the table. It was the text message about keeping her on the corner. Preston picked it up. His face went pale. Then Adrian slid the bank records. Wire fraud, he said. Then the notary log. Forgery. Then the insurance policy. Conspiracy to commit murder. The room went deathly silent. Caleb looked at the door like he wanted to run. Lydia looked like she had swallowed a lemon. This is illegal, Preston stammered. You hacked my phone. Investigative discovery, Adrian smiled. And by the way, we're live streaming this meeting to the district attorney's private server. The police are waiting in the lobby. Preston stood up, knocking his chair over. You can't prove intent? I don't have to, Eliana said, standing up to face him. She looked tall, powerful. The jury will do that for me. The door burst open. 2 uniformed officers stepped in, followed by a detective. Preston Miller? You're under arrest. It took 6 months for the dust to settle. Preston and Caleb took plea deals to avoid 20-year sentences, but they still went away for a long time. Lydia is fighting the charges, but she's bankrupt and alone. Eliana got everything back. The condo, the money, and most importantly, her life. She sold the condo, too many bad memories, and bought a small house with a big yard just down the street from me. I was sitting on my porch yesterday, watching Daisy chase a butterfly through the grass. She's walking now. Eliana was in the garden, planting tulips. She looked over at me and smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. We think we are safe in this world. We think that contracts and marriages and promises protect us. But the only thing that really protects us is the people who love us enough to run into the rain when we are breaking. I look at my daughter, and I see a warrior. I look at my granddaughter, and I see the future. And I thank God every day that I didn't drive past that corner. If you're listening to this, and you're holding on to a grudge, or you're waiting for an apology that might never come, let it go. But if you have family that needs you, fight for them. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait until it's convenient. Just be there. Because in the end, when the storms come, and they always do, all we have is each other. Thank you for listening to our story. If you believe in justice, please subscribe to the channel. It's not just a button. It's a way to say that truth matters. Take care of your families. Goodbye for now.